bunkers now,
Yeah.
but then in enormous lot.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
are they military shelters or it is
yeah,
civil shelters?
both they have.
Both?
But you know, the most of the area around Stockholm archipelago and so was closed for foreigners. And you had these big signs in English, German, Russian, and the police really checked you if you came there. So it was everywhere kind of military sites.
It was such a project to protect against future nuclear war.
When I was in the Air Force, they told me, but if they drop a atom bomb, you don't have to do anything. You can just forget.
Of
So-
course, but maybe just to protect from radiation or to save
Yeah,
some.
we had such exercises. Yeah, of course. I remember even running with this gas mask we did. So it was, of course. But no, I just want to say about this. I translated one book. It was about the atom bomb history. American writer De Groot, and he ends this book and say that this bomb will never disappear until it comes something that is stronger. The question is what will be stronger than this? Because today, in the 80s, there were a lot of protests against nuclear weapons and so. But today you don't hear much about nuclear weapons. You hear about Iran, Northern Korea, and so much. But I think both Russia and America are also, I don't know, but I guess they are developing their weapons. Yeah, they get more precise.
Sure. Today we have more information in open process and open mass media about this nuclear weapon. For example, if 20 or 30 years ago it was completely impossible to get a map of nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
For today, Russia and America opens these maps because it's like a sign that we don't want to use this weapon like a first user. Maybe if this idea is a real idea of Soviet and American philosophy, war philosophy, it is good. Sometimes it was such a philosophy, it was produced in America, that it is possible to use a nuclear weapon if actually during the peaceful period of time, without any problems from your enemy, you just press all the buttons and use all the weapons you have.
Yeah.
And then this situation was shown to the American government. They said that it is awful. No one will use this weapon without some serious purposes to use it.
Yeah.
So for today, I don't know that there are some serious purposes for this weapon, because there are a lot of tactical weapons, a lot of some special troops, and some mobile weapons, and nuclear weapon for today war is important like a hypothetical weapon. Like we have it, and we couldn't damage anything at your place, and your protection systems are nothing for our weapon. It is enough. Maybe if situation in this balance will be changed, it will be not good for everyone, because the balance is quite important.
But you know, I think generally people, nations think they have control over history, what will happen, and so. But it always, I think it always repeats this. That
Actually, they don't have this control.
something happens that they don't know. What was this?
Or one day they realize that we don't have this control.
Yeah.
Why? Because if we will look on the history, and for example speak about the reasons of the Second World War, if we will see some agreements which were signed after the First World War, we will see a total control. Everything was decided. It was a nation league. It was some international organization. It was some demilitarization process. Some committees, and sooner or later, only 20 years passed, and we have a Second World War. And this control was nothing.
Yeah.
Maybe today we think that it is clear, it is nothing special, it is
change
not,
quick,
but
yeah.
it could change in 24 hours, and in 24 hours we
Yeah.
will realize that we don't have any control at all.
This, what also I find very interesting is this kind of mythology with these weapons that sometimes people think seems to exaggerate the strength of a nuclear bomb, yeah, and still it's terrifying. But yesterday, for example, Captain Antanas said that perhaps 4 of these R-12 or SS-4 rockets would be enough to destroy whole Lithuania. That sounded a bit too much for me. But do you think that he has a point there that with radiation and everything, 4
Yes,
rockets?
it was really enough for the whole Lithuania, not only Lithuania, because it is not necessary to destroy every town and every house. It is enough to destroy the main centers and to have such a radiation level that life on this territory is impossible.
Yeah.
That's true. And the dislocation of this weapon in Lithuania really was, for Lithuania, it was a big risk because sure the coordinates of these bases were known at the NATO bloc. No, maybe not all of them, but some of them. Sure, it is impossible
Yeah.
to protect everything from
Yeah.
and sure that the coordinates of some Lithuanian towns were calculated in the some bases or in some submarines. And sure, if some launches started from this territory, the same launches started to this territory.
Also, this Sweden was a so-called neutral country, and still is, not in NATO now. But more and more, they spoke in Sweden about that there were actually connections with NATO, and they found out material that they had the same kind of radio levels to communicate, Air Force, Danish, Swedish, Norwegian. And actually, there's one Swedish man who did some research about this exercises from the 60s. Among them were operation called Snowcat, and that Sweden was also involved. That so many planes should fly over Baltic Sea to confuse Russian radar. They shouldn't know what was nuclear planes or not, or what planes carried.
It will depend on.
And so Sweden was actually a part of this kind of strategic war in the 60s, seemingly. And in that case, I think in that also Sweden must have been a target, because I guess the Russians really knew about this. The Russians and Americans had so many spies, and I guess they knew about Sweden's plans here for a future war. And in that case, even if we don't know the targets of these bases, I guess even Sweden must have been included in this.
I think that the hypothetical nuclear war will be the World War II. And for Europe, it will be impossible for any country not to participate. Like to say, oh, sorry, guys, we don't play this game. It is not interesting for us because of the global process. No one asked you. No, the same was in the Second World War, for example. Bombers, Soviet bombers, which were dislocated in Kaunas, the same day when the war between Soviet Union and Germany started, they bombed Helsinki. Not Berlin, because the distance was big enough, but Helsinki. And the same could be in hypothetical nuclear war, because the radiation level is spreaded. It is used somewhere here, and when this radiation will be in 2 days, no one knows, because this process is uncontrolled. So sure, the danger was for the whole region.
So this kind of mythology about nuclear weapons is in a way true, that it has this Armageddon.
Yes.
It's not just...
And the idea of this Armageddon was understood by all the all the participants.
The officers and so I mean.
No, I think the maybe the high-level officers
Yeah.
who make some plans and calculated some points and wrote a hypothetical war condition. For example, if we make this decision, our enemy could make such a decision. After that, we could make this decision, and what do we have at the last point?
Yeah. Do you think this has had any psychological impact on people's mind? This threat, nuclear threat, 80s was.
I don't know as it about in Europe, because in Europe this topic should be more discussed
Yeah.
in society due to democracy process. As for Soviet Union, this topic was closed, and as for nuclear weapon, it was only information that American uses this nuclear weapon against Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It was not discussed the situation about nuclear weapon till 1989.
And then they were.
And then one day people opened the magazines and realized that you see in Carmel what was a nuclear base, and it was rockets. And now these rockets will be removed because America decided to remove their rockets. And for many people it was such a new information, completely new information.
And a shock.
Yes, and a little bit maybe shock. So the propaganda part of this process, or some mass media part in Soviet Union was very little.
But
It was not a topic of discussion, not because of political situation.
Yeah. But I met people who lived close to nuclear bases, and they told me they knew there were nuclear weapons there. They even saw in nighttime when they brought this rocket.
No, sure, people who live many years near some activity, sooner or later will see something or will hear something. In Soviet Union, it was not popular to speak what you have seen.
Okay.
For example, it was such a situation, real situation, when mobile forces of nuclear weapon should relocate from one point to another point. The road was closed by the special army forces, army militia, and it was such a guy who was very hurry, and he have seen that road is closed, and he tried to speak with this sergeant to please, I need to go. I don't want to wait when you play your game, but and it was such a conflict. But then he has seen these rockets and he has seen this equipment. He understands that it is not a topic of his interest, and he said, "Okay, sorry, I understand. I will go to my car and wait a little bit." Because the interest to this topic in Soviet Union was not good.
No.
For example, sometimes people near Carmelo goes to forest to gather some mushrooms, for example.
Yeah.
And by mistake they reached the territories which were closed, and these persons were gathered to a special department of KGB, and after that they decided not to deal with mushrooms in this forest.
They were questioned and so on.
No, it was yes. These structures has enough possibilities.
People were even killed by these electrical fences, I heard.
No, yes, I have heard that there were some accidents, but looking on the construction of this electrical fence, it is possible to be killed if you cross several borders.
Yeah, they were different.
With all the signs, so it must be a person should be rather problematic with his head to climb on this.
Yeah.
On this, the system was safe enough, because no one needs some extra information, some extra accidents. Sometimes soldiers were killed on this system due to some problems with internal process.
Yeah.
That it is such a small accident, and every accident was discussed in the division group, and the information later was announced that this soldier was killed, so please check your systems. And because the whole system has 6 levels,
Yeah.
and the electricity system, the dangerous system, is the internal level. So if you want to go to this internal level, you must go through 2 levels here or 2 levels here, no, and it is not so easy,
Yeah.
because the fences are big enough, approximately till 3 meters high. And for example, today, if you see in forest some military object, you don't try to climb through these fences to see what it is here. The same was.
Yeah, I find it very amazing. You know, it's a question somehow to visualize this threat that I think many people had in the 60s, 70s, 80s even. Perhaps it was even worse in the 80s when they put it out, started, Pershing on the west side and this Pioneer SS-20 on the east side. But when you actually see these places now, they are a lot of in ruins, and it's not so long time ago.
Yeah.
And it seems that people forgot all about this. That I find very interesting, how this kind of psychological impact it must have. So much weapons, what it could do, and then the threat seems just to disappear, and it's still there somehow. So that is a thing I can't really pinpoint it so good, but it's some kind of psychological thing there, that.
It is a point of psychological thing. It is a point of some historical heritage thing.
Yeah.
Then some objects were used for military purposes. After that, these objects were abandoned, and always there is such a period of time of inactivity when these objects are not used for anything.
Yeah.
It was such an idea like all these objects will be used for some civilian purposes because they were built, they were very expensive, and now we can change the situation in these objects to regenerate them to some civilian object. Sure, these ideas were only theoretical because it is special fortification military objects.
Yeah.
And no one will live there, no one will make warehouses there because they are built to rockets, not vegetables.
No.
And now we try to look on these objects from the point of cultural heritage, not because these objects are very beautiful. No, they are quite simple, maybe. But we want to say that these objects are connected to very serious historical processes.
Yeah, sure.
And we can touch these processes. But this object shows us that these processes was a reality, not a story. And later, showing these objects for some future generations, we could show that yes, it was. This nuclear war, it was not such a game. It was real. Everything was made for it.
Yeah.
It was not as like it could be sometime somewhere, but it was here.
And not small amounts.
Yes, and yes. And for example, publishing this book or speaking in some conference, we always try to say for people that the distance between your life and the Armageddon of nuclear war was 3 hours 15 minutes.
Yeah.
From every point of your life.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we started to speak that some times ago in Lithuania it was nuclear rocket forces, many people said, no, it is impossible here in Lithuania. No, it is maybe somewhere in Russia, but not here. And I think that it is necessary for some of them to find some cultural
Yeah.
activity, because then history is forgotten, it is repeated.
Yeah.
And this is not the best history which should repeat it. War historians is the only one profession of people who don't want to give more work in the future. And very often people give for us more and more work for
Yeah.
future.
Yeah.
We have a lot of work to examine the First World War, the Second World War, and now we already have Yugoslavia, we already have Georgia,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we have too little time.
Yeah.
So
But that's also the strange thing with this so-called Cold War. It never broke out into a hot war now, but still it was going on. In period, it was real hot, you could say, in the 60s, and in the 80s also it was. I was studying in Berlin the second half of the 80s, for example, and I found some magazines from 87, 86, and just some weeks ago, and almost in every issue of them, there are about nuclear weapons, rockets, Thatcher and the nuclear weapons, Kohl and nuclear weapons. They discuss this every day, and so in a way, it had. I have this feeling that it had an enormous impact on people, but in a subconscious way, in a way that, as you say, these officers they knew what it would be like, and 68 they were thinking of their families, their children, and so on.
no, actually the situation.
But what could we learn of that? I mean, because people now seems to forget this. Even young people in the Baltic states, they hardly know anything about Soviet Union. It's some kind of old ghost. So, therefore, I found it very interesting when I first saw this concrete stuff, hangars, bunkers, and everything, texts. That was for me had a direct route to my childhood when I was thinking about this stuff. So, I think you are right. It's a thing that must be kept and told for future generations. And still, the reductions, 87 for example, of the middle-range rockets, that was the first time when they started to reduce nuclear forces. And but they have this doomsday clock. In America, they put it to 20 to 12 and like that. And I think 91 it was so good as 17 to 12. But now they moved again back to, I don't know, 5 to 12. America abandoned some of these anti-ballistic missile agreements and so on.
Because the price of the support is big enough.
So it's a game going on, I think, that we don't see much of. I think even it was a game going on in Georgia between Russia and America that we don't see, and we don't know what the...
Yes, actually we don't know, for example, the situation of what was planned.
Yeah.
And for example, if America will took place in this war, what was the situation?
Yeah.
What was the second point from Russia, and what could be second point of America and Russia, for example, participating in larger war in the larger region. Actually, this weapon exists, and we, speaking about history, we must say that this weapon exists till now.
Yeah.
It is present. It is much better than this weapon.
Yeah.
It is very fast, very accurate, and it could be used anytime. And later, through technology, for spreading technology for the whole world, some old systems could be used by other countries, and the modern system of today sometimes in the future could be used for some other countries because of technology. So sooner or later, civilization will have enough power to destroy itself. The question is if civilization decide to destroy or not.
Yeah, if something comes that's stronger to destroy the bomb, but I don't know about
Because,
that.
for example, 500 years ago, the war was 200 people from one Tsar and 200 people from another Tsar, and it was such a big mess, but no problem for civilization, because no, it is only 400 of people,
Yeah.
and for today the possibilities are very serious. And this war, the start of this war is enough for the finish. It is not necessary to.
Ska vi stoppa här? Eller ska vi snacka sen mer?
Jag ska ta några stilla bilder bara en bit ifrån när vi kan kolla i böckerna tillsammans. Jag ska bara äta upp min kaka.
You know, I heard about, or wrote from, it's called FOA, it's Swedish Defense Research Agency or something, they do research about. And I read one paper there, 80 pages something, that this man wrote that here in the Baltic States they had ground-to-air missiles, air defense missiles that were topped with nuclear warheads. Up
Such
to
a name tactical weapons, yes.
30 kilotons and so.
Yeah.
But you have no idea where these bases were in the Baltic States, because there were rather many, I heard.
You see, as for bases, it was not such a topic of base because it is a mobile complexes,
Yeah.
mobile complexes, and I know that they were in Latvia, they were in Šiauliai district. It was a big complex built near Šiauliai, which doesn't belong to strategical nuclear forces, but to the tactical nuclear weapon. It is small warheads.
But up to
No,
100 kilotons?
up to 500 kilotons. Which not only rockets, it is bombs, and the smallest one nuclear weapon what was produced by Soviet Union, it was a 150 millimeters shell for common cannon, for tank cannon, or for.
And that they had in store in the Baltic States
Yes,
also?
in near Šiauliai was a big storage for the whole Baltic state, and I don't know the exact amount of pieces of tactical nuclear weapon, but it was approximately 2,000, approximately. Because this information is unofficial. No, it was like a storage. And if situation will change, this equipment, these warehouses just spread all the equipment through the some forces. Which could be used by NATO. This is some local.
And Tartu, they also had these bomb planes here.
Yes.
We tried to film there in Lunia, but they didn't allow us. They kept the nuclear bombs there. I asked them, they said no.
No, it depends on their modern use.
It's still in use, I guess, yeah. But I saw one picture of these hangars, they were really modern. So,
as I know, one of the former Soviet base which was used by sailing with nuclear weapon near Šiauliai today is used as the main arsenal of Ukrainian army. Sure, no one will know.
but the airfields, the common airfields, do you think they also had tactical nuclear weapons here?
Sorry, that
The airfields, the air forces here in the Baltic States, the Russian air squadrons, did they have nuclear tactical weapons also?
No, I wasn't at these warehouses and hasn't seen what was here, so I can guess. The information would be tactical warheads, bombs, and shells.
Because I read in one paper For example, here in this, no, where is this hole? Ah.
It is here.
This in Jelgava 13 there.
No, it is Luna. Yes, it is Luna.
They had this kind of,
Tactical, yes.
I
Later,
think in English it was called XH-55 or something. Some kind of cruise missile.
in Russian it is Luna. It is the grandfather of Iskander. In Lithuania it was here near Šiauliai.
Because I
Several
read
places.
I found a paper, Latvian paper, when the American generals came, you know, for this destruction of the rockets. They said they were in Jelgava, and they saw these rockets. 84 of them were destroyed. Some kind of cruise missile, nuclear tipped. But you know, the more you read about it, the more places you find where they kept this nuclear stuff.
You see the whole here the main interest is for starting places,
Yeah, yeah,
but it is impossible to keep such a huge system
yeah,
only the starting places. Somewhere it must be reconstruction,
Yeah.
technical control
Yeah.
facilities. It is impossible to make all the technical control in Moscow, for example,
Yeah.
a very big distance. So it was approximately here, not far from Riga.
yeah.
Then if something wrong is with rocket, is brought here. I painted.
Thank you.
There are some. It was some special schools. All this system has a special dislocation of topographical system. Has a special service for radio system. And if we will show all these objects, it will be just full marks.
Yeah. I saw.
For today, these objects are not interesting already, because, for example, the place of radio system, it was just a house and that's all.
Yeah.
The place for some schools, no, maybe it is a little bit more interesting, as usual they have one start position for trainings.
I saw one map over. A man from Estonia sent me air defense missile bases in Estonia. I don't know how many were, 70
As for air,
Everywhere.
yes. As for air defense, the situation is a little bit different because air defense was built according to the protection of the nuclear forces,
Yeah.
and together with this topic, it was the topic to protect all the territory of Soviet Union. Actually, the topology of anti-aircraft bases is the same